Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Today is Saturday, the 25th of March, 2023. Welcome to the Scottsdale Big Book Study, where we will study the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Maria F. and I'm a recovered compulsive overeater from Ireland, and I'll be your host for today's study. Our co-hosts today are Veronica C. and Sue L. If you have any questions during the meeting or any concerns, please contact either myself or any of the co-hosts, and you can do this by private message in the chat function. Please note that we don't have a speaker today. We actually have two speakers. We don't have Harlan G here today. We have Johan N and we have Audrey N, and they will both be recorded. However, the Q&A session which follows, that won't be recorded. We ask if you could please keep your microphones on mute at all times during today's meeting, and also please turn off your video if you're exercising or eating, or if you need to step away from the screen for any reason at all. During the meeting, we will post the link to the 7th edition, and that money goes towards the cost of our Zoom account, the cost for uploading our recordings, and we also send contributions to the Intergroup and to the World Service Office. And we'll post a link to the previous week's recording in the chat function. But now we're going to turn the meeting over to Harlan G. today. Audrey N. Hi, Audrey.
Oh my God. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Maria. And anybody that's just joined, Harlan is on he's doing a speaking meeting today, and he's asked for speakers to be here. So myself and Johan will be sharing our experience, strength and hope. So my name is Audrey N. I'm a grateful recovered compulsive overeater from Dublin, living in County Meath in Ireland, and so grateful to be able to to be here and to share my experience, strength and hope. So to qualify to come into this program, I am the real deal of a compulsive overeater. I have got up to 400 pounds in my roughly last time I weighed when I was in my size. But to go back, I have always remembered that I used food for ease and comfort. I always felt as a child just like a nervous, anxious child, always worrying, always, if adults would be speaking, I would always think that there was something bad happening. And somewhere along the way, I found that food gave me an ease and comfort around those feelings. When I was 7, I made my first Holy Communion, and my dress had to be let out by the local seamstress. And that would have been the first kind of visible sign that my weight had doubled within that year. My grandmother made my clothes. I wasn't the same as my peers. People were, my age, were all part of the local football and everything else. And for me, that wasn't my story. So all through my teenage years, I remember I just always remember that I was, God, when I look at it now, it's the self-seeking I would be in, looking for that attention. And always felt that there was just something missing. I didn't know what it was. I could never figure it out. And that went right up through my teenage years. We'd be going to the discos, and everybody else would be dancing on the floor and getting asked up on dates. And, I'd be just sitting, sitting on the seat. I remember we used to go ice skating, and they used to call me the barrier guide because I used to just literally stand on the barrier, But I always remember that there was a sweet shop there, so I loved going. So there was never a problem of not going or isolating out of life. But yeah, I just, I didn't play sports in school. And when I look back at it now, I was so fixated with, like, the obsession was always there, And I don't know whether it's the change of times, but when I look back at photographs, I really wasn't that big in the sense of when I was a teenager. My weight really got, my weight really became a huge issue as I got into my adulthood. So, the ease and comfort was the reminder, So when I hung around with people, it was always who had the best snacks in their house. It was always who had, a free for all sweets and unlimited amount of food. And even though in my house, my mom you know, she tried to, you know, monitor what I ate. And, you know, when I was in primary school, which probably was about 11, I was brought to a dietitian, you know, and I remember sitting on the bus, you know, and I remember my mom being so agitated because she was like, I'm getting on the bus and I'm bringing you in here every week. And she could see that I wasn't losing weight, you know, she could see that I was, you know, still not losing anything. And I'd sit there and they'd say, you know, and you might say, I'm making the dinner, you know, I'm making the food, I don't know. But she didn't know that I was so deceitful. Like, she didn't know that, you know, I was getting food wherever I, you know, wherever I could, you know. And that would be, I remember even I was so deceitful one time. I remember I used to say to this girl that I went to school with, like, I have no key to get in at lunchtime, so that I could go to her house, you know, and that I could have something nicer that was in my house. So I done the geographical. I moved to America when I was 21 and stayed there for 3.5 years. And my weight just, it just, you know, I remember my parents coming to visit me. And I remember opening the door and I could see the look on their face. You know, I could see the look that they, you know, they were in shock at the weight I had put on. And over that time, you know, for me, I was away from everybody, and I was away from home and away from my friends, and it was easy. It was easy just to get the ease and comfort, you know, and it was the party life, it was eating, it was drinking, it was all of that stuff. But I was dying, you know, I was absolutely dying inside. I just couldn't, there was that feeling of just not settling, you know. I always felt that, you know, if I lose the weight, everything will be better. You know, life will be so much better. If I lose the weight, because I put my validation on my body, you know, I put my validation on my appearance. So if I lose the weight, then, you know, I'll get the attention off guys. If I lose the weight, I'll probably get a better job, you know, all of that stuff. And then my sister decided to get married, which meant I had to come home and be bridesmaid. So I went to a pay and weigh, one of many, because I've tried them all. And I went to a pay and weigh and I lost 8 stone, I'd say. So I don't know what that is. Probably 70 pounds, is it? So I was, you know, happy to come home and wear the bridesmaid dress and just do what I could do. Came home for a few days or a week, and, you know, moved back. And when it was time to move back to Ireland, I made sure that I was at what I, you know, thought was an ideal body weight. And things were fine for a while, but life became lifey again, you know, and I wasn't able to maintain the pay and weigh. I wasn't able to maintain that. And I've lost, you know, I've lost many stones and weight all over my life, but I could never keep it off, you know. So and I've tried everything. I've done the laxatives, I've done the intermittent fasting, you name it, I've done it, you know, absolutely every single thing. I was like a magpie, and, you know, on Monday morning, a leaflet would come in the door and I'd be like, oh, 70% off this new diet. And I'd be like, this is going to work, you know. And then I thought I was going to be just one of the statistics that just could never lose weight. I was just going to be one of those people, you know, that whatever it was, I just wasn't going to be able to lose weight. And, you know, I never had high cholesterol, you know, and it was like, you know, it was like scoring coming out of the doctors when she'd say, no, your cholesterol is normal. And it was like I was at this huge body weight, and it was like I was after winning the lottery because I hadn't got anything, you know, but it was going to catch up with me. You know, it was all going to catch up with me. And the thing about you know, the how I get here is, like, I could talk for hours about, you know, the disease and where it got me. And, you know, basically I existed in life until I found this program. I just existed. I isolated. I couldn't go to parties. If I did, I left. You know, I've often been sitting there and they, you know, text me, where are you gone? And I'd be gone home. I just couldn't sit, you know, couldn't sit. So, you know, the grace of God, I know it's not, it wasn't great for everybody, but when the pandemic hit, you know, and I was like, I had been in program a few years before that, but when I look at it now, I wasn't fully abstinent and I wasn't really doing programs. So I say I came in March 2020, and I was sitting in the Zoom meetings and I could hear people, I could hear the recovery. I could see people, you know, and I was full of resentment, you know, oh, why are they making it so difficult? What are they talking about? Phone meetings and ring people, and gee, you know, I could just keep it so simple, you know, but that was simple life. I was catastrophizing everything. I was making it all hard. So, you know, I sat in the meetings from March till July, and I tried to just do 3 meals a day, you know, and I just couldn't. I was, you know, I was not nice to live with, you know. I'd go from, you know, I could see the kids coming out of school looking at me going, oh, what way is she today? You know, because I could be, you know, having a good day of like, just having whatever food, or I could be literally sitting in the car waiting to collect them, counting how many have I left, how many things have I left, how many pints have I left, how many food have I left, just that madness that would be with the food plans I was doing. So yeah, finally I stood in, my kids were going on an overnight with their dad, and I was after picking up some foods, and I was standing in the shop ready to pay for them, and I remember thinking, I am just not going to be able to manage one of these each, you know. So I put them back, and that was the forced connection I had with the feelings and emotion, my emotion of loneliness, that they were gone for the night, my emotion that I wasn't in control of their life, and I rang a fellow that night, and I said, look, I can't do this, you know, can't do it anymore, you know, I need. And she said, okay, here's a few numbers, ring somebody. And I found a sponsor, and when I kid you not, I walked those steps, because I knew that this was a life, you know, it was a life or death decision for me. I had got up to, you know, at that point, you know, I was probably after losing, you know, a couple of stone, but when I came back into relapse, you know, I don't even think it was relapse, because I don't think I'd recovered the first time. But when I came back into the room, you know, I couldn't even function. Like, I couldn't walk. I couldn't, you know, if I was walking in the shopping centre, like, I'd have to have a trolley to push. If the kids wanted to push the trolley, I'd be like, no, because I've nothing to lean on. So when I got a sponsor, I was like, yes, I have to just do whatever I have to do here. So I worked the steps, you know, and I worked them, and I still work them, you know, and I work them because, you know, they're the first thing that I have to do with this program. It comes before everybody else. And, you know, I've heard people saying, even before your children, I'm like, absolutely. Because if I'm not recovered, they don't have a mom. You know, they do not have me, because I'm not able to be present, and I'm not able to parent. And they're well aware of that, and they're glad of it, because now they know that they have a recovered mom who is able to, you know, dance with them, chase them. I'm giving out to them if they don't push the trolley for me, you know, because I'm like, I don't need to push it anymore. So yeah, my program is very simple. You know, I have a higher power. You know, I had to find a connection with something that was bigger than me, because my life was unmanageable, and I was trying to run the show. You know, I was full of self-seeking. You know, and I shared this the other day at a meeting. It's like, I always get the analogy mixed up, but it's like the fish that's in the bowl. It doesn't know it's in water, you know, and I didn't realize I was in that self-seeking, because that's all I was used to. You know, that's all I was used to, was self-seeking, selfishness. And I always thought selfishness was like doing, you know, taking something that wasn't yours, or taking too much. And when I really look into the defects, you know, when I'm trying to play director, or when I'm looking to, you know, well, wait till I tell you about my story, you know, waiting to hear how bad my life was. You know, all of that self-seeking, and I don't need that anymore. I don't need someone else to validate my my life around, you know, the unmanageability. I was the type of person that, like, the bills would come in, and I'd just be like, oh, not today, you know, I just ignore them. You know, I couldn't even pay a bill. And today, like, I own a house, I have a car, you know, I'm going on holidays next week. I've been on holidays, I'm living. This program has given me a design for living that is just unbelievable. I've been away more times in the last 2.5 years in recovery than I've been away all my life. And that's no word of a lie. Because when I live today, you know, my higher power is in control. I get up in the morning and I pray to something that's bigger than me, you know, and I say, God, give me the next right thought or action here. And the emotional sobriety for me has been, it's been very new. And the thing is that I don't allow I don't allow things come in and derail me, you know. So in the past, if, you know, one of the kids was sick, you know, it'd be like, oh, that's it, give up everything, cancel the holiday next week, you know, bring in sick to work for a week. I just have to be in this space because I could not do anything else. Where it's like, you know, my daughter wasn't well the other day and she came to me and it was just, yeah, we had an open conversation. And I was like, things are going to be okay. You know, I didn't have to get into that whole craziness of the mad head that I would be in before, and ringing everybody, you know, ringing everybody and telling them the drama, you know, wait and I tell you what's going on in this house and how I have to deal with it, you know. And when I keep the program so close to me, you know, I have to do outreach calls, you know, I have to get out of my head, you know, I have to be there for other people, you know, so I have to bring people through the book. And I keep saying to my sponsees, you know, I had a sponsee and she was saying, oh, I'm going away and what if, and I just keep saying, you know, just keep it in today. What are you doing today? You know, just do what you're doing today. And when we're mindfulness and keeping everything in the day, you know, that's that emotional sobriety, you know. Because I don't know if anybody ever heard of the program Quantum Leap. When I'm in disease, that's what I think I do. I think I can go into the future, I can go back into the past, you know, and I'm just constantly living in that. And when I'm in recovery, I'm just in today. What can I do today to stay well? I can't stay well today on yesterday's food plan or yesterday's outreach call or yesterday's meeting. You know, I have to do it all again today. I currently have a weight loss of 154 pounds, I think, and still working each day towards, you know, my GP's ideal body weight. That's, you know, whatever that's supposed to be for me. That's between the GP, higher power. I don't get involved in that. I just follow, you know, dignity of choice. And I remember my weight was plateauing, and I rang a member and I said, you know, my food plan is blah blah blah, and my weight is plateauing. And they were like, would you try, you know, would you weigh and measure for a month? And I was kind of like, yeah, grand, you know. And I rang another fellow, and they said, you know, do you ever see the dignity of choice as a weigh and measure? And I was kind of like, yeah. And then when I rang the third person and they said the same, I was like, okay, higher power, I get it. You know, my higher power has a great sense of humor. And I was like, right, okay, I get it. And like, that was not just a month ago, that was a long time ago, a good few months ago. And things did shift and the head was much clearer, you know, because it's the disease will keep telling me, you know, like when it says a piece of fruit, like that's a melon to me, you know, because that's my disease. It's not just like 6 ounces, it's a melon, you know. So I'm just grateful today that I have this program, you know, every Saturday evening, I get up into this room and this is like, you know, it's my time with people that get me. You know, I could sit down and go to Dublin where I'm from and sit with my friends for hours and they just will not have a clue, you know, where my head is getting me. But you know, everybody here does, you know, and it's a fellowship, you know. I went to the LA birthday party in January, and just to see people face to face, you know, people that you just see on meetings, but like just the warmness and the belonging that, you know, you get from it. And, you know, it's never about the food now, you know, it's never about the food for me now. What it's about is that I can't manage life. You know, my life is unmanageable. And when a build-up of human emotions comes, I was using ease and comfort. I was using food. So the doctor's opinion tells us that, you know, when we're looking for ease and comfort, you know, and it says restless, irritable, and discontent. Very polite doctor, you know, because I tell you, I have different words for restless, irritable, and discontent. You know, that's a very polite way. You know, I was like a crazy, you know, serpent out of hell when I was looking for that. And then it says drinking, you know, friends can drink with impunity, you know. So I can sit with my friends. Now I'm going away next week and the three of us will be on holidays and they can eat, drink and do whatever they want, you know, and they don't have this disease, you know. It doesn't affect them, you know, and that's okay, you know. But I'll have my food plan and I'll be drinking my water, and that's exactly the only way I want to be. You know, I only want to be in recovery. I have no wishes to be anywhere else. But you know, enjoying the sun and having the ear pods in and being able to listen to meetings and be able to get out in my own way. I was in the LA birthday party, 800 people, and I still had to go up to my room and do outreach, you know, because I have to do service. I have to be of service to people in this program. And I always remember, you know, people saying, when you're in the field, you never imagine being out of it. You know, so if any newcomers are here or people returning or anything like that, it's, you know, people say one day at a time. I say 1 minute, whatever it means for you to stay in the program. If it's 1 minute, if it's one meal, just do whatever is needed. You know, I just say get a sponsor. Yeah, the main thing for me is I have a sponsor and I have sponsees. You know, the step one was, you know, admitting that I was powerless. It was hard, but I had to admit it, you know. And then all the way through the steps, like every day, you know, I have to do a 10th step. I'm on the 10th step train. I have to pray and meditate, you know, to take time out to listen to my higher power. You know, I can't get up in the morning and just walk out onto that landing without connecting, because I tell you, I won't go down the stairs and I'm fighting with somebody, you know, because that's where my disease brings me to. I'll try and control everybody. I'll want them up out of bed and make their bed. I used to say to the kids, why can't you make your bed? And they'd be like, you want the bed made, I don't, you know, and it is. I want the beds made, you know, they don't give a shit if it's made or not, you know, so I just close their doors now. I literally just close the doors and I say, you do you, you know. I always had to have everything perfect because I thought that that's how people was, you know. If I had a clean house and, you know, there's no doubt in the sink and there's a lovely candlelight, that people would think, you know, that I have it all sorted, you know. That it did not define who I was, you know. And I used to always have that, you know, feeling of like inferiority, you know, people were of a different class or status or, you know. And I've done a lot of 10 steps around it, you know, and, you know, different things came up and it's been said to me, you know, remember, you know, people can't, you know, mix up your humility with poverty, you know, and I'm so grateful of that, you know, that because I have humility, you know, it doesn't mean I'm any less than anybody else. You know, I may not go around and, you know, be shown it off, but I'm happy in myself today. A lot of work still has to be done. I'm going away and what are we, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days. I want to get on the scales every day until then, because my disease will tell me that that's what I need to do. My higher power will tell me that's my business, not yours. It's not the time that you get weighed, that I weigh once a month. It's not the time for you to weigh, stay off the scale. And things do crop up. They do come up, you know. It says in the book, we don't live like, you know, I'm not a spiritual guru and like, you know, flying around and everything's great, you know. There's days where it's a shit show, absolute, you know, but the thing is I stay close to my higher power, you know. So that's what I have to do. That's what I have to do every single day, you know. And I had an argument with the kids earlier. My son came to me, he was like, you were having an argument with, you know, my sister and you took it out on me. And I was like, absolutely, I did. And I apologized for that. And you know, and I can go back and say, I'm sorry. You know, before I couldn't, I'd hold that grudge and I'd be saying, no, it wasn't me, that was you. And you started it and you made me react. And, you know, so not only am I able to apologize and make those amends, you know, the living amends, for me, you know, the step 8 and 9 was huge. You know, step 4 was great. I had no problem putting the people on my list. You know, it's real simple. I know who annoys me, so that took no time. The 4th column took me a little bit longer, but I got through it, you know, and I was grateful that I was able to see that, you know, my part had a huge part of it. But the 8 and 9, you know, I just felt like there was a real understanding of this program when I came to 8 and 9, you know. Thanks, Maria. You know, to sit in a room with my kid's father, who were separated 10 years, and to be able to make amends for my part was the miracle of this program. To be able to co-parent with somebody now and not try and get them to do what I expected. Not for me to think he should be the dad I want him to be, you know. And I always thought, you know, the kids have to have a relationship with him, and you know, I just stay out of all of that. You know, I just stay out of it all. And everybody has their own higher power. I'm not it. You know, I'm not their higher power. So for me, it's up in the morning, pray and meditate, you know, to a God, a higher power, whatever that is of your understanding. It's not you. So just, it can be anything else, you know, because, you know, we've tried to do it all, and, you know, we didn't succeed. I do outreach calls, you know, I sponsor. I have sponsees, and I also have a sponsor. I have a home group. I do service there. I jump on to meetings, you know, a teenager, so if they don't want to talk to me and I have free time, I'll jump on to a meeting. I go on holidays, I live happy, joyous and free, all because I'm not in the driver's seat. Some days I try and get in, you know, but higher power will remind me to, you know, remember that he's the guiding force behind this for me. And I am just so grateful to be able to do service at this meeting. You know, I find that having the fellowship and having, you know, familiar faces and having people that, you know, we can outreach to, and people that get us, you know, and I'm just so grateful that I'm not alone in this. So if there is any newcomers, you're the most important people on this meeting. You are. So I'll just keep coming back, you know, and reach out, and nobody needs to do this alone. So Maria, thanks for timing me, and with that I pass.
God, thanks so much, Audrey. That was absolutely powerful. And recovery is just shining through you, Audrey, just shining through you. You know, you're just, carrying the message here to us today. So thanks so much, Audrey. It's great. I could listen to you all night, Audrey. So over to Johan N in Sweden. Hi, Johan. Just wait now. I'm just going to do this. Wait now. If you just want to mute yourself, Johan.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And thank you so much, Audrey. That was fantastic. I don't want to go on after that. That's but thank you so much. Oh, really nice to hear your story, and you know, your strong recovery, and one day at a time. And and great to be here today. My name is Johan. I'm a recovered compulsive overeater, and I live in a small city in Sweden called Falun. It's a bit north inland from Stockholm, about 3 hours from Stockholm. I am from Stockholm from the beginning though, but I've been living here since 2013. Nice to be here and sharing my experience, strength and hope. And I love this meeting. I'm here almost every Saturday with my kids. This is a hugely inconvenient meeting for me. It's right in family time Saturdays, but you know, I chosen to include my family in this meeting, so my kids are here as they are running around while I'm doing my best to be in the meeting. So I love this meeting. And the people here as well. So it's so nice to see you all. And I have multiple addictions. And on some meetings where I go, some people sometimes say that, you know, credits don't transfer. And I learned that, I really learned that. I learned that the hard way. That's how we learn things, I think, in these rooms. We learn it the hard way, everything. But I grew up in I'm gonna try to keep my story kind of short as well, to get into the solution and talk about that, because I think that's the most important. But just to identify in as well, and you know, maybe my story can help somebody. I grew up in a home of alcoholics. My father alcoholic, my stepmother alcoholic, and as a kid, I felt very disconnected. I felt unloved. I felt isolated. I felt alone. And at a young age, I found food as a comfort. It always helped me. it made me feel okay, okay with other people, okay in the world, as long as I had something to snack on, so something to eat. And I think food in my young years also saved my life. At a young age, I was contemplating suicide. I did an attempt when I was very young, before I was a teenager. You know, I cried for help, but you know, that could have been gone terribly wrong. And but I had the food, and I didn't have to try that again, because I could always turn to food. You know, as a teenager, I also I got into alcohol and drugs, and for some years, as a teenager and up to my early 20s, the food was kind of quiet. I was so focused on alcohol and drugs and partying and all that, and it had such a huge effect. So I could say I traded food for alcohol and drugs for a while. In my early 20s, food came back as well. So I was addicted to, you know, alcohol and drugs and food. And yeah, I started my own company when I was in my early 20s, 2021. And also there, I decided to move abroad. And I lived in Southern Europe for about 13, 14 years. It's my kids screaming in the background. I don't know if you hear it. And during that time, you know, food and alcohol and drugs has always been my solution. It's been the solution for the problem that I had inside myself, not being able to cope with things, and not being able to live within my own skin. I could always turn to food and all other things, you know, to just feel okay. And in my early 20s, moving abroad, having my own company, having employees, living on the top of the world, like Bill says in his story, you know, I had arrived. That was exactly like I felt, being down Southern Europe, you know, first living in Nice on the French Riviera, and then living in Barcelona in Spain, have my own company, making tons of money. And at the same time, you know, just living in this progressive disease. And year by year, it just, you know, got worse and worse. I got bigger and bigger. I got more and more addicted. You know, I got to be a daily user of all these things. And after 10 years in Barcelona, it all just collapsed like a house of cards. It's just I got very, very sick, and I got into the hospital in Barcelona, and I had multi-organ failure. I was in a coma for 3 months. And the doctors told my family and my friends to come down to Barcelona to say goodbye to me in the hospital, because I was gonna die. They gave me a 10 to 15% chance of surviving. And they came down, my friends and my family. My mother stayed there for 4 months during the whole period I was sick. But, you know, like, luckily, or by God's grace, I did get better. And after 3 months in coma, I got out of coma. And after another month in the hospital, I was moved to Sweden, and I was in Swedish hospitals for another 5 months. So I had 9 months in hospitals. And coming out from the hospital, you know, I had nothing. I was in a wheelchair. I didn't have anywhere to live. I didn't have a company. I didn't have any money. I had my family around me, luckily. So that was that really saved me. My mother, she has really done a lot for me in that sense. So I had to start from the beginning, really. And I got sober. I got sober. I got into fellowship. I did the work. I worked through the steps, got a sponsor, and I got sober. And coming out from the hospital, I was also thin for first time in many years. Because when I was in a coma, I was put on intravenous food. So I lost 100 pounds in the hospital. So I came out thin. I was sober, and I started to build my life again. I got somewhere to live. I got a job. And I always thought, because my whole life I've been dieting, I always thought that the solution is being thin. That's the solution, The scale, the numbers on the scale, that's what that measures my well-being and how good I'm gonna feel. I always thought that. So but it turned out that wasn't that's not how it is. So getting sober and all that was fantastic, but I still had this huge problem with food. And again, trying diets to maintain my weight. Now that I had this huge weight loss, I started to gain again, and then I started to purge. And it felt logic in my mind. It felt perfectly sane, because if you eat too much food, you just purge and you don't have to gain weight. I mean, that sounds very logical, So I started doing that. And, in the end of all this, I was just beaten. At last, I was beaten by this disease, and I was willing to do anything to just get recovery, to get out of the food. So I contacted somebody, and I got a sponsor. This was in the beginning of 2019, and I thought that, I'll make my own food plan, and I will attend a couple of meetings a week, and I can work the steps in a few weeks or a few months. Or I was taking this very, easily, and it turns out that, food addiction is really, really, really hard. It takes a lot of work, and I learned that the hard way over and over again for a few months. So in the end of May 2019, and I've been abstinent since 28th of May 2019, I was again beaten. Then I was really beaten to a pulp by the disease, and I was shocked that it was so hard. So again, this time I jumped 2 feet into the program. I got a sponsor. I worked through the steps really, really quickly. And I learned to have a daily program. And like Audrey was talking about, this one day at a time. When I came into OA, somebody told me that OA is like AA, but on steroids. And that has been my truth as well, I can't manage on a couple of meetings a week, and doing a step 10 every few weeks or every few months, or doing step 11 when I feel like it or when I have the time to do it, or sponsor when it feels convenient, and having one at a time to sponsor, it doesn't work for me. And like Audrey said, I'm the real deal. I'm also the real deal. I really need to put in the effort. I need to put in the work in order to have this recovery. The amazing thing when I worked through the steps was that I really had I would even call it a spiritual experience. Just a couple of days after I was through the steps, And I worked through step 5 to 12 in one afternoon and one evening. So I went very, very quickly. I just woke up and I felt, that something has really shifted. And what happened when I worked through the steps this time as well was that going through step 5, I just felt, after my step 5, going through step 6 and 7, I just felt, love and forgiveness for all the people on my inventory. I've never felt that before. I've never experienced that before. And coming into step 8, I was completely willing to do all of my remaining amends, which was also a complete miracle. So waking up this 2 days afterwards through the steps and feeling that something has shifted. It's similar to the thing that Bill describes, when he's calling in Dr. Silkworth to say like if something has, happened. And I called an OA friend and said that something has happened. I feel that something has happened. I felt at ease, I felt calm, and I wasn't thinking about food all the time. So, and this OA friend said, yeah, hope that, that it sticks, that you will keep this. And since that day, I've had this feeling with me. And the day after that, I was lucky, to get someone to sponsor, and I just jumped into sponsoring, which has, really, really saved my life. And today, my life is it's an amazing life. I live a very different life from before. I live in a small town now. I have, a wonderful wife. I met my wife a few years ago, and the love of my life, and 2 small, amazing kids. We live in a small townhouse here. We drive a Volvo, and it's a very simple life, but it's just a fantastic life. And I think that's what the program does for me as well. It's I'm content. I've never been content before. I'm always thriving, going after the next thing, or getting, higher up on the top, and things like that. And one day at a time, my daily program is that I get up in the morning. I get up really, really early, Monday through Friday. And I get up at 3:15 in the morning. I do 1 hour with God every morning. I do 30 minutes silent meditation because I really, really enjoy that. But it's taken me years to get there, that I can sit in silence for 30 minutes without guided meditation or anything. And I think that I tell my sponsees this as well, that if you don't like meditation, you shouldn't do it. The important thing is that you spend time with God. They didn't have seen Buddhistic meditation when when Big Book was published. They didn't do that, so doesn't matter. Do something that matter. And we have also the instructions in Big Book Up on Awakening, and just use that. So I do 30 minutes of meditation. Then I do 30 minutes of reading. I love to read books, and I always try to read at night, but that never worked out. I always fell asleep. So I learned in OA. I learned to schedule stuff. So I schedule my reading. I read a bunch of books every morning for 30 minutes. And then after that, I go to the gym Monday through Friday. And I've never done that in my life before as well. I detested, moving or going to the gym, or, I took taxi everywhere where I went. I never moved an inch if I didn't have to. So it's been that's all also very, now I've done it for a few years. It's not new to me anymore, but you know, and that also helps me a lot. You know, I like doing that today. It's I have gotten into that as well. And after that, I go to my job. My wife is amazing, that take care of the kids in the morning, and I pick them up from daycare, so I take them in the afternoon and evening. And then I have my abstinent breakfast at my work, and I start working at 8 o'clock. So I have a lot of time on my hand in mornings, and I learned this in recovery as well. You know, to make time where you can. And during the day, I use step 10. I have learned to do daily step 10s and do multiple step 10s. I have a God squad. I have a bunch of people that I can call, and they do step 10s as well with me. And I do it really quickly. I do the inventory straight from, you know, step 10 in Big Book. I don't, if I don't need to, I don't do a step 4 inventory. I just go straight to selfishness, dishonesty, you know, resentment and fears. And it can be any situation. I do a step 10. I call somebody, I ask God to remove it, and then I turn to somebody I can help, or, you know, I make an outreach after that. And then step 12, which is, you know, the amazing grace in this program, that the thing that really saves my life every day, you know, one day at a time. And chapter 7 starts with, or in the beginning, it says that nothing so much ensures immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fails. It always works. And Bill talks about this in his story as well, you know, going very happy. He could be in a deep depression, feeling bad, you know, feeling sorry about himself, and going to the hospital was always an uplift for him, you know, going to talk with alcoholics. And that's my experience as well. So when I sponsor people, I go through the steps with them very, very quickly. And we do the steps, 8 chapters in Big Book in 8 days. And on day 9, they are available sponsor, because that is what's gonna save their life. My sponsees calls me every day. I call my sponsor every day. Right now, I'm sponsoring 5 guys in Norway that are calling me every day. And yeah, I also sponsoring the other programs. You know, I have to be active in all the programs that I'm in. So otherwise it doesn't work. Even though I use Big Book in all 3 of them, it's you know, credits don't transfer. I have 3 programs. I have 3 sponsors. But it's only in OA that I call my sponsor every day. And OA has taught me so much. OA really taught me to live one day at a time, just one day at a time. OA really taught me to have a daily program, to do these things daily, on a daily basis. And it's not just about being abstinent, you know, that's a byproduct of working the program. It's also how, you know, how good do I want to feel, or how do I want my life to look like? If I just dedicate myself in the service of others and for in God's will, you know, all these incredible things happen, and I can live, like it says, happy, joyous, and free, which I do, you know, one day at a time, and sometimes not, and that's okay as well, you know. Tonight, my wife was sick tonight, and I had to sleep with my 2 kids, and they were fighting you know, half of the night. One was kicking the other in the head, and you know, and trying to take care of this while you're dead tired. So, you know, not always happy, joyous, and free, but you know, that's also incredible, and it's incredible. It's just such a gift to live this life. And I also Audrey talked about, you know, step 8 and 9. It was so beautiful to hear you, Audrey. Amazing stuff. And you know, step 8 and 9 has been has been such a healing for me as well. Going back to the people that I thought, destroyed my childhood and making amends to them. I never thought I would do that, I'll tell you that. And from my father, getting, beautiful amends back as well. But not from my stepmother. And she also, I asked if is there anything more that I can, make amends for. And she had more stuff as well. And I think a big book, it says something like grit our teeth or something, that put these teeth in like you have for horses. I was holding both my hands under the table when she said that, because I thought that 99% were her fault, and I was going to take care of my 1%, take care of my business 1%. But going through that amend as well, and not getting an amend back or anything like that, it didn't come straight away, but over a longer period of time, I just felt forgiveness, and I felt unconditional love with her as well. And a person that I thought hurt me so much in the past. So going through, making amends to the people around me, and making these hard amends, and even going back to places where I worked before, paying back money for things I've stolen that they didn't know about, and all these things. And it's taken me years to go through my economic amends. The other amends I went through my list quite quickly, and when and I had I did that in the first time I did the steps, but also when I came here, going through the steps again, looking at my list again, I could see that there was more. And there is always more. My mind clears, one day at a time, from all the shit that I have eaten, all the sugar I have put in this poor brain and body. So my step 8 list is a living list. I remember stuff from longer back sometimes, and I was like, oh man, oh no, I gotta do this. And even from high school, I called some people from high school last summer, and I felt really embarrassed, doing that at first, but I felt like I need to do this amends, and I did, and it was just great, and I connected with these people. They were laughing at me, but that's fine. For the things that I thought that I had done to them, and that I had done to them. So step 8 and 9 has been a huge thing, really. So to make right with the people around me, to my friends, to my family, to all co-workers, and to places where I have stolen and done things, and just paying back the money. And in about 2 years, I'm finished with all my economic amends. I pay every month on my economic amends. I've done that for years, and I think that's the way to do it. Because if I was thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna pay this back when I have all this money in a big bag of, it doesn't work. It's I just need to ask them, well, and come to a agreement with them. How much am I gonna pay? And that's what I've done, and I just pay that every month. So yeah, this program has been a huge thing. I really found the solution in Big Book, working the steps with a sponsor, and doing this one day at a time. Thank you. And doing it one day at a time. That's the thing. So yeah, thank you for letting me share my story today, and thank you for being here, and nice to see all of you, and it was great to hear you, Audrey. And yeah, I I think I'm out of fuel there, so I'm gonna I'm gonna say pause. But thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Johan. It was just so great to hear you, and just you brought us on the journey, the journey of recovery, and what I heard was just the transformation in your life, and how good life is today. And you're saying life has been life, but how you use your steps to live life, and just hearing your dedication to program and your dedication to your own recovery. Yeah, it's very powerful listening to you. So thanks a million, Johan. So we're just going to stop the recording, and we are going to go over